Hello, welcome back to a new YouTube video. Today is an exciting one because it's a collaboration for Junk Journal July. And I took part in this last year, and if you've seen my recent journal videos, you'll know how long it took for me to finish, but I'm really excited to be taking part in the collab again. So Junk Journal July is a prompt challenge created by Meg Journals, who you can find here on YouTube and on Instagram, and I'll pop the links below. I'll also link the prompt list down in the description if you'd like to join in, and it's always such a fun way to create in your journal. It's perfect if you're a seasoned journaler or are brand new to it. You can interpret the prompts however you like and do all of them or just dip in and out throughout the month. Because it is a prompt list for the month, it has 31 prompts and they're all quite varied and open to interpretation and perfect for a jumping off point. So as this is a collab, you'll find a group of us who have created videos especially for Junk Journal July 2022, and I'll pop a link to the playlist as the first link in the description so you can hop along to everyone's channels and gain some inspiration. So this year's theme for the YouTube videos is sharing our favourite supplies, and so today I want to share with you my top 5 junk journaling supplies. I'll be creating a spread in my journal using these things later on, but I also just wanted to share with you in this video the process for creating the actual journal that I'm going to be using for this prompt challenge. So you'll have seen me so far gathering my supplies for making the book, and I wanted it bigger than last time, and I'm actually using some signatures from an old book, but it was too thick and too long for me to use for this challenge, and I didn't want to use the whole book. You'll have seen that there was some beautiful handwriting in there, and I wanted to keep that as it was, so I just took out some of the signatures, which you can see here, and then I'm using some of my other supplies, which you'll see later is some of my favourite supplies, to change some of the pages, add a few things in, some packaging, some old books, and I really love the variety that adds. Instead of just being completely blank pages, I think it adds a lot of character and interest. So for the cover, you'll have seen it was some beautiful hand-painted. They're like really thick cardboard. They're actually taken from an old photo album, so there was some threads there to slip in postcards or photos, and it was gorgeous, but it was being thrown away from an auction house, and so I rescued those, and it was just so beautiful, and I really wanted to use those as my cover pieces. So because I was using some signatures that were already from the book, they already had the holes in for the spine, using that to line up for my cover and adding the holes into the cover to create my own book. But it was a really useful way because it really sped up the process for me. So I'm actually creating this with a Coptic binding method, and you can see here how it looks. I really love the open spine, and it worked really well with the signatures I had, and I'm just neatening up the inside where I had the overhang from this piece. But I really love how it highlights the cover, and I didn't have to worry about glue or anything. It feels really secure, and I can also add in some bulk to this and it won't matter because the spine has that little bit of flex. So here you can see the beautiful paintings that I used, and also to keep the journal together I've added in this string which I just glued down, and I'm adding on this like end page with some old book paper. And that string is just going to wrap around the book, and I really like the way that looks. It's obviously very long when it is open, but when it's closed, I just like the idea of it keeping everything together and wrapping it up safely. So now to share with you my top 5 junk journaling supplies. The first one is old papers and books. And I love collecting these from charity shops and car boot sales. And you'll see this is like my big box of junk journaling supplies, and I have pages and pages from books such as like music note sheets, coloured illustrations from like children's books, some newspaper articles, lots of textbooks and recipe books, and I really love like the old vintage style where it's not glossy paper, it's got this lovely creamy like antique quality to it. And I really enjoy using those to add colour in my journal. The second supply is packaging. So you'll have seen I use this one in the Junk Journal July, and this is just an old paper bag from Muji. I love reusing brown paper in my junk journals, and like tearing things off envelopes, so here where it was an airmail stamp, and I just really like giving things a second life. So here's another brown paper bag. This was from Tim Hortons, which my partner brought back when he went to Canada. But you can also use like gift wrapping, which is what this is here, and this black patterned one is actually some toilet roll paper packaging, and I just really like the pattern on that. So my next favourite supply is stamps. This box is completely jam-packed full of stamps. So there are some first aid covers which are like from the 80s and they're like specific designs, but I also have loads and loads of loose stamps which have been torn from actual envelopes, so most of them are used, whereas the first aid covers are more commemorative. So you can see this envelope is full of stamps, and I really enjoy using those in my journals because it adds so much texture, and it's also just a really small little thing that you can create collage clusters with, and I think it just adds a really lovely pop of colour and adds a lot of interest to a page. The next supply is collected ephemera. So this really is quite broad, but for me it includes things like business cards, train tickets, even receipts. So these are actually business cards, but I do find that I collect a lot of things and I hoard a lot of things, especially when I go away. So it works really well with travel journaling as well as junk journaling, because collecting all these paper supplies really adds a lot of memories and interest into your journal, and it means a lot more than just printing something out. I really love the idea that it's really tangible and connected to something that we've had in our life. So my final favourite supply is washi tape. And you'll see my box of washi tape here, and it fits really nicely in this box, and I do have quite a few. And I just find it's a really lovely way to add decoration to a page, and also they can be really subtle, but they also can have a lot of personality to them. I have quite a lot of character tapes which I bought from Japan, so I use those in my Japan journal. I have lots of different colours, and I just find it works really nicely not only to stick something to a page, but also to add that decoration colour. Most of the time I use them in like collage clusters rather than to actually just tape something to a page, because they are so pretty and I really like the way they look layered together. So here I am laying out the supplies ready for me to do the very first prompt for Junk Journal July 2022, which is begin. So I'm doing this in the very first page of the junk journal that you'll have just seen me make. And I'm just gathering out a lot of the supplies that I went through. So these are all of the things that were from that big box. And the first thing that I do to create any spread in my junk journal is to start with the bigger elements first. So I'm collecting the larger pieces like the envelopes, the old book papers, lined paper, basically the larger pieces that I'll use as a base and then I'll add on top. So it's a lot of trial and error of placing things down, seeing if they work, and then removing them or adding things on top. I really liked this piece. It's a really nice bold green. It says "We are so good together" on it. It was from a like cardboard pencil case, I think, and I've had it for years and years. And I just really like the way that stands out against that brown paper, which is again the Muji packaging from before. And I've layered that with a book page, so I've just popped that behind, and now I'm using the wrapping paper and adding that to the left hand page. I really like the torn effect, so I'm not cutting that with scissors, I'm just using my ruler to rip that edge. And then I really like the idea of using an envelope. If you've seen any of my junk journals before, you'll know I love hidden journaling, so that's what I'm planning on doing here. And I'm just seeing if I've got any other larger pieces to add to that page, and if I want to add on any colour. But I do find this a lovely little floral piece which I'm going to add on later. I just layer things on for now, I don't glue anything down at this stage. So I'm just looking for something to go into that vellum envelope, and I'm using the toilet paper covering. So the toilet rolls come wrapped in this tissue paper, but it's quite thick, it's thicker than normal tissue paper, and that's what I was using there. And now I'm starting to layer things up, and one supply which I really enjoy using is white paint. So I don't always use this, but when I do, I try to use it because I want to add more texture. So you'll have seen in a previous junk journal video, I used it with a debit card and scraped it on. and this time I'm using it with the end of a pencil and just creating this polka dot pattern on the right hand page, and again I really love the contrast with the brown paper. It also works really nicely with this gift wrap paper because it kind of mirrors it and mimics it, so the spread is really cohesive. And I'm just using Pritt Stick to stick all of this down. So I wanted to add my journaling into that pocket, but I needed that piece of tissue paper from the toilet roll packaging to be a bit more sturdy, so I'm just using an old Project Life card and mounting it onto that. I've just used a glue stick to stick that on, and it's got a neutral background, so that's perfect, and I'll add my journaling in later and include that in the envelope. So now it's on to picking out some stamps. Like I mentioned earlier, I really enjoy adding these to a lot of my pages, and you'll have seen in my Junk Journal July for 2021, that was like a very common thing I did on most of my spreads. So I know I wanted to include this cutout flower, which was from my friend Emma Durrans, so I'll link her down below as well. That was from some happy mail recently, and I think that just adds a nice, like, feminine, delicate touch to this spread. And I'm trying to layer up some stamps here. I've got quite a few brightly coloured ones, so I'm just trying to see which ones work well. And again, these aren't stuck down yet, but as I'm trying to work out the layers, I'm going to start making some decisions and just going for what I think works best. And I really like the pop of green from that Australian stamp. And although it's not like a cohesive colour palette on this spread, I think it works really nicely. So now I'm going in with my washi tape. And like I said before, I'm not using this to tape anything down, I'm just using this to add a bit of colour and a softness to some of the edges. So I really love grid washi tapes, and I'm using that pink one down on the left there, and I love the boldness of this brown and black stripy one, and I'm adding that in underneath the Good Together piece. So that was just stapled on, so I can easily get underneath and tuck that in. And that's another good thing with Pritt Stick, is that if you change your mind, sometimes if you're quick enough you can peel it back up and poke things underneath, which is why I like using that. So I'm just adding on another piece of collected ephemera there and adding on a ticket. And then to finish off this spread, I do want to include the prompt. I was planning on putting begin on with letter stickers, but I didn't have the right letters. So I've gone through my Tim Holtz ideology word phrase book, and I've just found a sticker which says, "And so the adventure begins," and I thought that works really well with the prompt of begin because it's the beginning of the Junk Journal July, and I just thought that it would look really nice with the black contrast against the book page in the background. So I've just stuck those on, overlapped the envelope so it ties it all in together and doesn't seem like it's floating, and this is how the final spread looks. So I'm really happy with this first page in the Junk Journal July. I'm really hoping not to take as long as I did last year, so I'm hoping to have this done by at least the end of summer. But I had a lot of fun creating this, and I really recommend taking a look at the prompt list. So just to finish the journal, after I'd done that spread, I thought I would add on these numbers just to finish off the journal so I know what year it is. I'm just using some wooden die cut numbers here which were from Hobbycraft, and just gluing those to the top left. So you can see how it all comes together here with the string there, and I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I think it's a lovely size for a junk journal, and I'm excited to create in it again. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check out all the other lovely people in this collab, as well as Meg's channel and the prompt list down below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week with a new video. See you later.